Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't just a name, he's the embodiment of defying fate. Rising from the ashes of a war-torn world, he refused to complain. With unrelenting discipline, he sculpted his body and sharpened his mind. He wasn't born a champion, but he chose to live like one. From the humble gym in Austria to the pinnacle of Mr. Olympia, and from playing the relentless Terminator to navigating the complex world of American politics, Arnold's journey is proof that greatness isn't just given, it's earned. Arnold has proven that greatness is a decision, not a birthright. What about you? Have you ever made a choice not to give up even when everything seemed stacked against you? If so, drop a number 1 in the comments. If not, comment 0. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video, because if you believe someone needs this reminder, this is it. No one is born great, but everyone has the right to become great if they dare to take the first step. His father, shaped by the trauma of war, instilled in Arnold a cold, rigid discipline. But in a household where love was scarce, Arnold found something that would later define his future resilience. He once said that he wasn't afraid of being physically punished, but what truly hurt was being unnoticed, lost in the shadow of his older brother. Arnold's fire was quiet, but it burned bright, and it was about to set him on a path he could never turn back from. In the late 1950s, as a teenager, Arnold discovered a small gym in Graz. It was miles away from home, and there was no one to take him. So he rode his bike through the cold, uphill roads hour after hour, just for the chance to train. Every pedal was a step away from the life he didn't want, and a step closer to the life he imagined. His friends thought he was obsessed. They were right. Arnold wasn't just lifting weights, he was fighting for his freedom. I never saw a future in that village. I had to create it myself, Arnold said. It was in the freezing basement and on the long roads to Graz where the champion within was forged. Not by the applause of others, but by the silent rebellion of a boy who refused to accept mediocrity. Those harsh years didn't just shape his body. They built a mind of steel, a vision of clarity, and an unshakable belief that anything was possible with relentless effort. Before the world ever knew his name, Arnold Schwarzenegger had already built something far more valuable than fame: unshakable resilience. True strength isn't just found in muscles or titles, but in the ability to rise each time you fall, no matter how heavy the burden. When Arnold Schwarzenegger set foot in America in 1968 at 21 years old, he didn't find the land of milk and honey. Instead, he entered a silent battlefield where every step had to be fought for on his own. Arnold Schwarzenegger came to America with little more than a suitcase, a few dollars, and a dream far bigger than his wallet. His thick Austrian accent made communication feel like a steep climb. People smiled politely, but many couldn't understand a word he said. I didn't know the words, Arnold later admitted, so I spoke with my actions. By day, he worked construction, carrying bricks, hammering nails, and braving the harsh California sun. Every paycheck was a step forward, moving him out of poverty and closer to the life he envisioned. At night, he'd retreat to cramped, dimly lit gyms filled with nothing but the scent of iron and unyielding determination. In those gyms, Arnold trained not just his body, but his will, believing the world would one day notice. He lived in small rented rooms, just a bed, a flickering bulb, and a corner where his dreams hung. There were nights he'd lie awake staring at the cracked ceiling, hearing the distant hum of traffic, wondering, am I making the biggest mistake of my life? Back then, bodybuilding in America was an obscure hobby seen by many as a bizarre pastime. Arnold, the muscular foreigner, was chasing a dream that most saw as foolish. But one thing was clear to him: only victory could silence the doubters. In 1970, at just 23 years old, Arnold became the youngest ever Mr. Olympia. But with each victory, the pressure mounted. "If I lost," he confessed, "it wouldn't just be losing a trophy. It meant losing my place, losing the chance to stay in America." Each competition was more than just a battle for a title. It was a battle for his identity. Thousands of miles from home, Arnold longed for his mother, the taste of home-cooked meals, and even his father's stern voice. But in America, there were no welcoming arms, no family to share the load. Only friends at the gym where the language of pain and effort was understood. Yet when the lights went out, the weights were silent. There in the stillness, it was just him fighting alone, just like those early days in Los Angeles. His body began to protest. His joints ached, muscles tore, bruises ran deep. These weren't accolades, they were warnings. But Arnold didn't stop. He wrapped his knees, iced his elbows, and kept lifting. He gave himself no permission to turn back. Every paycheck saved every lonely night, every grueling workout, each one was a brick in the monument he was building. Years later, he said, "I always see myself where I want to be, not where I am." That vision, coupled with the courage to endure pain, transformed a stranger into a name known across the world. By the early 1970s, Arnold wasn't the unknown man in a cramped room. He was the face of bodybuilding. By 1975, he had claimed the Mr. Olympia title 6 times. In 1980, he secured his 7th victory, cementing his place in history. But with each trophy came a heavier burden. Maintaining a near-perfect physique demanded constant training through pain-hiding injuries and living on the razor's edge between glory and collapse. One wrong move could end it all. In 1982, Conan the Barbarian catapulted Arnold from sports legend to movie star. Yet once again, he had to fight. Producers criticized his thick accent, calling his name too long and too foreign to sell tickets. He faced rejection after rejection. Arnold didn't just play the game, he redefined strength itself. He wasn't just a winner. He was the man who reshaped what it meant to succeed, to have courage and to endure. For decades, Arnold stood as a living example of control, precision, and relentless perseverance, not just in competitions, but in life itself. With a net worth surpassing $1.2 billion and a legacy that touches millions, there's a stark truth: no glory or fortune can stop the inevitable tide of aging. At 78, Arnold is no longer fighting for titles or applause. Instead, he's confronting the greatest challenge of all: the decline of the body and the passage of time. Long before fame and awards, Arnold was already acquainted with hardship. Born on July 30, 1947, in the small village of Thal, Austria, a place still scarred by World War II, Arnold's early life was defined by scarcity. He grew up in a home without electricity, where harsh winters were a way of life. His father, Gustav, a strict policeman hardened by the war, ruled with an iron fist. Praise was a rare commodity and affection even rarer. Arnold once shared that he wasn't afraid of being hit. What truly terrified him was being invisible, ignored by his own family. In that home, Arnold's older brother was the favored son. Arnold was the quiet one, the overlooked one, yet beneath the surface a fire burned brightly. Long before he stepped into the spotlight, Arnold knew hardship. His journey began in the austere village of Thal, where the bitter cold of winter wasn't just the weather, it was life itself. But Arnold didn't give up. He studied acting, worked on his pronunciation, and in 1984, The Terminator was released. The same voice once ridiculed became his trademark. "I'll be back" became an iconic phrase, and Arnold stepped into a new kind of legend. Yet with success came its own challenges. Long filming schedules, being away from home, and cold nights in hotel rooms made him realize that while fame brought him riches, it also brought isolation. As Arnold's fame grew, so did the scrutiny. A failed movie, a loss, or even a personal misstep were magnified. Success had placed Arnold on a pedestal, but it also tied him to expectations. Eventually, he left the sports world and the film industry behind to enter politics. Now, his every move was under the microscope. No longer was he battling weights or cameras. He was fighting to prove his worth. But as always, Arnold did not back down from rejection. Every decision he made had the potential to undo the image he'd spent decades building. But he was unafraid. He understood that stagnation was a slow form of death. "If you're not moving forward," he once said, "you're slowly moving backward." From the outside, Arnold's life appeared to be a symphony of success. 7 Mr. Olympia titles, blockbuster films, and the governorship of California. But underneath it all, there was one truth he knew well: the battle was never over. To those who look closely, the truth is clear at the top. The air is thin, the nights are long, and even when you're standing on the peak, there's a loneliness that comes with it. Arnold built his empire through iron discipline and an unyielding will strength that carried him across continents into history and through storms that would have broken lesser men. But by 1997, at 50 years old, that fortress began to crack. Under the sterile lights of an operating room, the man who once played the Terminator, the future governor, the champion of a lifetime, was no longer any of those things. He was simply a man facing the surgeon's blade, about to undergo an aortic valve replacement, a condition he had kept hidden for 5 decades. Not out of pride, but out of fear. Fear that the world might finally see the vulnerability he'd worked so tirelessly to escape. He never told his mother back in Austria. She was elderly, her hands trembling, and he didn't want to burden her more. "I'll call her when the surgery is over," he promised himself. But in 1999, she passed away, no call, no goodbye. Arnold was on set filming when he received the news. The cameras kept rolling, his body still flawless, but inside his heart was shattered. The scar on his chest might fade, but the scar on his heart would never heal. And so, as he always did, Arnold pressed forward. Into the 2000s, he remained present in the public eye at movie premieres, political conventions, delivering speeches to packed halls. The machine kept running, the image stayed perfect. But in the quiet, when the lights went down, Arnold knew it would return. And in March 2018, at 70 years old, what was meant to be a routine valve replacement turned into emergency open-heart surgery. When he woke up, he couldn't speak. His hands were restrained and the world felt distant. For a man who once controlled his destiny with his own hands, this was his personal hell. In those moments, questions rushed through his mind. How will my children remember me as the strong one? Or as this, the haunting image of his mother who left without a goodbye, made him wonder if he too would leave a scar like that for his children. In October 2020, at 72, came his third surgery. By then, he no longer asked, "Why me no more bargaining with fate?" He simply looked at the doctor, silently acknowledging that no one can defeat time. By March 2024, at 76, Arnold was still lifting weights, still smiling for the cameras, still speaking before crowds. But inside, his heartbeat began to slip out of rhythm. Doctors called it arrhythmia, caused by scar tissue from past surgeries disrupting his heart's electrical signals. The solution: implanting a pacemaker. For most, it's a lifesaver. But for Arnold, it felt like a sentence. The man who once bent steel, who conquered two worlds, was now living thanks to a machine. "I used to be the machine," he murmured to the doctor. "Now I need a machine inside me." Just days later, he opened up about it on Arnold's Pump Club podcast. On the surface, it seemed like a straightforward health update. But for those who listened closely, his words carried a deeper message, a reflection on vulnerability, the passage of time, and the acceptance of our limitations. It wasn't just about health. It was about embracing the fragility of life while continuing to push forward. It was the quiet fatigue of a warrior who had carried too many scars, both visible and hidden. It was a gentle surrender, not of giving up, but of acceptance. Less than a week later, he stood on stage at an environmental conference. Camera flashes illuminated the room like stars, and applause rolled in like waves. He smiled the same smile that had once captivated millions. Have you ever felt so exhausted you considered giving up, but somehow found the strength to rise again? If yes, leave a 2 in the comments. If not yet, type 5. And if this story moved you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who might need a spark of hope. But beneath the tailored suit, there are fresh stitches, tiny electronic devices regulating every heartbeat, and a man now measuring each handshake, every sunrise, every speech, by the quiet ticking in his chest. He once proved he was stronger than pain, stronger than doubt, stronger than failure. Now every morning the first thing he does is place his hand on his chest, not to check his muscles, but to feel the mechanical rhythm that keeps him alive. Not because he has conquered death, but because he has learned to live alongside it. But because he had learned to listen to it. Sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from a surgeon's knife or a weak heartbeat. It comes from watching a loved one slowly lose their memory while their body still stands there. That's something even Arnold, the man once hailed as a titan, a symbol of willpower and muscles, couldn't fight, couldn't turn around. No strength could prevent the moment when he looked into his father's eyes and realized that his father was no longer truly there. A story repeats, forgotten halfway through. A name lost in the middle of a sentence. Arnold notices and his chest tightens. He's seen this before. His uncle in Austria had faded in the same way, slipping through the invisible door of dementia. He knew what was coming, and it was more terrifying than any physical injury he'd ever endured. Days passed, and the forgetfulness only grew. The man who once stood before presidents, who once delivered speeches to entire nations, who inspired millions, was now just a fragile shadow wandering through rooms like a ghost in his own life. Then one day, a moment would be etched into Arnold's memory forever, a scar that would never fade. A peaceful afternoon, soft sunlight streaming through the window, stretching across the floor. Arnold visits his father. Sergeant Shriver leans down, gently starts a conversation, hoping for a smile, a flicker of recognition. and in the heavy silence he whispered something no one could hear clearly. Perhaps it was a promise, or maybe a prayer, that he would not let that invisible thief take him without a fight, that when the day came, the world would remember him before it forgot his name. He had endured the silent agony of watching a loved one slowly fade away gradually and mercilessly. But nothing in that chain of tragedies could prepare him for what came next. A storm not fate's doing, but one he created himself. It wasn't an accident. It was the one mistake that shattered the image he had spent decades building, broke the trust of those most important in his life, and left a scar that no amount of time could ever erase. For many years, Arnold Schwarzenegger carried a truth that nearly suffocated him. He had a child with Mildred Baena, the longtime housekeeper of his family, a woman who had been with them for over 20 years, a woman who had been trusted with the smallest moments of their family life. In 1997, Mildred Baena gave birth to Joseph, the son of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Almost at the same time, Maria Shriver, his wife of over a decade, gave birth to their youngest child, Christopher. The two boys were born just weeks apart, raised under the same roof, one in the public eye, the other hidden in the quiet corners of the home. For more than a decade, that secret lived in their household like a shadow, silent, unspoken, and unnoticed. It quietly lingered, waiting for the moment when it could no longer be ignored. As Joseph grew older, the resemblance to Arnold became undeniable. Broad shoulders, his walk, the look, the unmistakable spark in his eyes. Maria had noticed it many times, but love and trust had made her heart refuse to acknowledge what her mind had been quietly warning her about. She had stood by Arnold through every transformation, through the grueling years of bodybuilding, the bright lights of Hollywood, and the ruthless world of politics. She had sacrificed so much her career, her private life, to raise their 4 children under the constant glare of the spotlight. She was his partner in every battle. But what she didn't know was that there was one battle she had never even realized she was part of. The destroyer had already crossed the gates of their home. In 2011, the secret came crashing down. Maria confronted Mildred, and the answer she received shattered her world completely. Arnold confessed without resistance. The words came out like rocks that had been lodged in his chest for years. No excuses, no justifications, only raw truth. But the look he received wasn't one of confusion or anger. It was emptiness. "Who are you?" his father asked. The words landed like stones heavier than 1,000 broken hearts. Arnold choked on his response. He couldn't answer. In that moment, the father who had taught him how to tie a tie, how to speak with conviction, how to serve his community, wasn't there. Not dead, but gone. And there's no pain sharper, no wound more bitter than mourning someone who is still alive. Arnold later admitted in those rare moments when he allowed himself to truly feel that the pain was deeper than any surgery, deeper than the public breakups, deeper than the failures the whole world had scrutinized. This time he was confronted with a truth that haunted him long after. What if one day I forget who I am? Watching his father fade away wasn't merely emotional torment. It was a devastating reminder that even the strongest are vulnerable to the slow erosion of time. Each lost memory, each moment of confusion, echoed the fear that one day he too might be swallowed by the same inevitable fate. It was like a cruel mirror. Every misplaced word, every forgotten memory, every vacant stare whispered in Arnold's mind. No muscle, no money, no glory can save memory from the cruelty of time. That fear trailed him through hotel rooms, after speeches between movie scenes, or in the quiet mornings before the world had stirred. It was a constant presence, a reminder that even strength and success couldn't shield him from the one force that no one can outrun. In interviews, he continued to maintain his calm composure. He said all the right things, praised his father's legacy, called for hope, and promised to raise awareness. But behind closed doors, that fear transformed into a new form of discipline. He overhauled his diet, took functional supplements, devoured research papers like a scholar, and practiced mental exercises every day, not to extend his life, but to preserve his memories. Because what he feared most wasn't death. It was living, yet already having disappeared. When Sergeant Shriver passed away in 2011, Arnold stood at the podium reading the eulogy. He was no longer a movie star, not a former governor, not the icon the world had once hailed. In that moment, he was simply a son, in pain, shattered, and afraid. The cameras captured the public moment. His voice was steady. His words were proper. A strong Arnold, just as everyone expected. But afterward, when everyone had left, he sat alone at the back of the hall, his eyes fixed on the empty chair where his father once sat, tall and proud. There were no desperate justifications, just the truth, bare and irreparable. For Maria, this wasn't just a betrayal. It was the collapse of trust. It was public humiliation. It was the moment she realized that the life she had fought so hard to protect wasn't really what she had thought it was. She quietly left their home. Within days, the media unearthed the story. The world rushed in like a tidal wave. Headlines screamed. Commentators analyzed every detail. Strangers passed judgment as if they had lived within the walls of their home themselves. Beneath all the noise, there was a deeper pain. Their 4 children, Catherine, Christina, Patrick, and Christopher, were caught in the whirlwind, unaware of the storm brewing around them. And then a teenager named Joseph emerged from the shadows, standing in the eye of the storm, carrying his father's gaze and a truth he never asked to bear. Arnold could no longer control anything. The world was beyond his grasp. All he could do was the one thing left for him to do: publicly acknowledge Joseph. Support him, and begin to build a relationship. But even though Joseph accepted his place in Arnold's life, the years of silence had left a scar that was difficult to heal. Maria's rare statement touched many. This is painful and heartbreaking, but it is also a part of life. In those words was a quiet strength of a woman deeply hurt, yet refusing to let bitterness consume her. For Arnold, the shame was suffocating. In his eyes, this wasn't just a scandal, it was the moment he lost the trust and the self he had once shared with his wife and children. He had constructed his empire with unwavering discipline, grace, and flawless control. Yet this mistake revealed a deeper truth than failure itself. He was capable of destroying the very things he held most dear. Arnold didn't turn to the spotlight seeking public forgiveness. He didn't craft an eloquent press statement or spin the narrative to make it more palatable. Instead, he embraced silence, not as an escape, but as a powerful act of accountability. He stepped back from the limelight, not out of fear, but because he knew that some wounds cannot be mended with words. In a rare private moment, he opened up to a trusted confidant. No one else is to blame. I caused this, and I will carry it for the rest of my life. It wasn't a statement for the headlines, but a raw, honest confession from a man who had lost more than just his fame. He had lost something far deeper. Maria, who had been by his side through thick and thin, chose to walk away with quiet dignity. No anger, no public outcry, just a serene journey of healing. Arnold didn't turn his back on Joseph. Quite the opposite, he nurtured their relationship not out of obligation, but from a place of love, acceptance, and a fatherly connection that had always been visible in their eyes and body language. They found common ground in the gym through shared moments of persistence. And in the unspoken truth, the past cannot be rewritten, but we control how we move forward. Arnold has always been there for Catherine Christina Patrick, and Christopher, not asking for forgiveness, not seeking grand displays of emotion. It was the quiet power of presence, steadfast unspoken, a family dinner, a graduation, a birthday hug. In these simple moments, he offered apologies without uttering a single word. He returned to filmmaking, but the allure of fame had faded. He took on fewer roles, choosing them more carefully. His focus shifted toward causes that aligned with the man he aspired to be. He dedicated himself to protecting the environment, supporting veterans, advocating for public health, investing in education for underserved youth, and building free fitness parks for communities in need. He made significant contributions to Alzheimer's research, a heartfelt tribute to his late father-in-law. Arnold understood that redemption wasn't about regaining public approval, but about showing up every day working to become a better man in the eyes of those he had hurt. In the stillness of his home, he would sometimes pause, glancing at old photographs where memories of a once joyful family stood untouched. He never spoke of it, but those closest to him knew his silence conveyed more than words or apologies ever could. Arnold Schwarzenegger once shared with a close friend, "I built my life on a foundation of discipline, but the one place I lost that was the place that made me lose everything." In the years that followed, he never remarried. While his name was occasionally tied to relationships, Arnold never again stood at the altar exchanging vows for a lifetime. Some believed it was out of loyalty to the past, while others saw it as his way of seeking redemption, a quiet promise to himself and those he loved. Perhaps deep down, Arnold silently acknowledged that he had once possessed something invaluable and had let it slip through his fingers. There was no dramatic conclusion to this chapter of his life, no public relations campaign to repair his image. Just a man in his 70s, quietly present with his children, guiding the younger generation, making contributions in his own way, and carrying a scar not the kind that fades with time, but one that continuously reminds him of a lesson learned through pain. For Arnold, that scar was both a burden and a guiding light shaping his every step forward. It taught him strength in a way that no championship title movie role or political win ever could. At 78, Arnold is no longer the indestructible hero charging through flames and bullets on screen, nor does he stand beneath the glaring lights of Olympia. But the steel will within him remains unwavering, tempered by old wounds, quieter mornings, and a more profound understanding of time. Most of his days still begin before dawn at his Mediterranean-style villa in Brentwood, Los Angeles, a property he bought in 2002 for around $4.8 million. Today, this expansive 6-acre estate is valued between $20 to $30 million, boasting a distinctive T-shaped design that ensures ultimate privacy, with breathtaking views of the Pacific Ocean and Catalina Island on clear days. The villa features 2 private elevators leading to the guest area, perfect for family gatherings during weekend reunions. It also includes 2 kitchens, one intimate and practical for everyday living, and another sleek modern space for entertaining seamlessly connected to an outdoor BBQ area and pizza oven. In addition, the estate features a private movie theater, a wine cellar with a soda bar, a game and billiards room, a rare flat lawn, and a resort-style swimming pool complete with a cabana. There's also a rooftop for stunning views and an outdoor kitchen area equipped with a smoker and stone oven. The garage doubles as a museum of Arnold's life. His cars are more than just vehicles. They are mementos that mark each significant chapter of his journey. Among them is a real M47 tank, a reminder of his time in the Austrian military, the original Hummer H1 which sparked the civilian military-style vehicle trend, and a custom electric Hummer blending the past with the future. The modern Hummer EV, BMW i7 xDrive 60, and Chevrolet Suburban are perfect for quiet family trips, and Excalibur Series 2. Fenton adds a touch of nostalgia, while the Porsche 911 Turbo Cabriolet is made for those windy sunset drives. The Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport, alongside a custom electric Mercedes G-Class created in collaboration with European partners, represents the evolution of transportation over the years. For long-distance travel, whether for work or family, he relies on his Gulfstream jet capable of flying nearly 7,000 kilometers with 12 luxurious seats, not as a display of wealth, but as a tool to take control of his time after decades of relentlessly chasing it. But the most important engine he tends to each morning lies within his chest. His heartbeat is steady now, thanks to a pacemaker implanted in 2024, yet each beat serves as a reminder of the heart valve surgery in 1997, the emergency heart surgery in 2018, and the third surgery in 2020. Arnold admits that there are mornings after the surgeries when simply opening his eyes and waking up feels like winning the lottery without even buying a ticket. The man who once measured his success by the number of weightlifting reps now counts his victories by his ability to stop before the pain takes over. Training still remains a regular part of Arnold's life, but now it's about precision rather than punishing his body. The protein shakes that once symbolized his strength have been replaced with plant-based meals rich in heart-healthy fats and vegetables. Every day he carves out time for meditation. In short, fitness videos tailored for men his age, Arnold shares a simple truth: discipline can outlast the ego, even as muscles fade and tendons shaped by time take their place. Since his divorce from Maria Shriver in 2011, Arnold has chosen not to remarry. Despite being with Heather Milligan, a physical therapist, for more than a decade, Arnold's life remains quiet and steady without the red carpets or public spectacle. With Maria, the mother of his 4 children, Arnold continues to speak with deep respect, always recognizing her as an essential part of his journey. His children have grown and are forging their own paths. Catherine often brings her young children over, allowing Arnold to experience a more gentle side of fatherhood. Patrick now balances his time between acting and business. Christina has chosen her own path, keeping a low profile away from the spotlight. Christopher lives his life quietly with a steady pace. And Joseph, the son who once lingered in the shadows, has now fully integrated into the family. The bond between father and son has been built with unwavering strength, long conversations, and a shared commitment to create a future while honoring the past. As of 2025, Forbes estimates Arnold Schwarzenegger's net worth to be around $1.2 billion. This is not the product of chance, but the result of the goals he quickly scribbled down on a small card on his first day in America back in 1968. From laying bricks with Franco Columbu after the 1971 San Fernando earthquake to offering early bodybuilding services by mail, Arnold built a real estate empire, starting with his first apartment building purchase at the age of 25. His ventures extended into Planet Hollywood Oak Productions publishing projects and the Arnold Sports Festival, which he launched in 1989. Later, he co-founded a supplement company with LeBron James in 2018, selling it in 2020. All these experiences contributed to his enduring legacy. Today, Arnold selects roles based on their significance, no longer driven by the paycheck. He dedicates his time and resources to building public fitness parks, supporting after-school programs, helping veterans, protecting the environment, and funding Alzheimer's research, a tribute to his father-in-law, Officer Shriver, whose decline in memory deeply shaped Arnold's sense of responsibility. While he hasn't published a will, those close to him say that everything has been carefully and thoughtfully arranged, yet another way for him to remain present for his family. Age may have etched wrinkles into his face, and his steps may have slowed, but his handshake is still as firm as ever. His eyes still carry the spark of the young man from Austria who crossed an ocean with nothing but a dream. Strength, he has come to realize, isn't about how hard you can punch, but in the ability to stand firm at graduations, on the sidelines of sporting events, around the family dinner table without cameras, or during early morning bike rides through Brentwood, where every turn feels like a promise kept. If his mansion is a fortress and his cars are an army, then the greatest lesson of his later years is this: redemption doesn't need to be loud. Legacy is not something to be forced. Every quiet step forward holds meaning, especially when the heartbeat in your chest reminds you of the reason to keep going. Arnold Schwarzenegger's story is not just about muscles, movies, or fame. It's the journey of a boy from Thal, Austria, who once gazed over the mountains of his homeland and dreamed of a life far greater than what he was destined for. It is the long journey from gyms with no heat from broken English to peaceful mornings in Los Angeles, where the laughter of his grandchildren fills the kitchen. It is the wisdom gained through victories, failures, and scars, both visible and invisible, that led him to the realization the strongest muscle a person can build is the resolve to keep moving forward. He exchanged the roar of the crowd for the gentle hum of bicycle wheels at dawn. He traded the clashing sounds of the gym for the small grip of his daughter's hand. And in doing so, he became a testament to one truth: rebirth isn't about giving up, it's the first step toward beginning anew, stronger and kinder. Now, as age brings with it countless breakdowns, both physical and emotional, he reminds us that the greatest victories are often not won on the bright stage or through words of praise. But rather from those quiet moments, a choice to love instead of anger. A good habit maintained even when no one is watching. A step forward when standing still would be much easier. What about you? Have you had a moment of rebirth in your life? Share your story in the comments below. It might just reach someone who needs it. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you think this video